are live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metaphysical Bible Hangout, which is the Bible study for Up Church. And I am so excited to be here because we've got a new series. Now, I do not have the physical book. I'm actually working with the Kindle book, but we're working on a new series on universal law. Come a little closer, make sure you guys can see me. This is exciting. And let me pull up the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Hold on, slideshow for current slide. This is a two-step process, the way that Google does it. So our question for tonight is, do you know the one thing that's controlling everything? Do you know the one thing that's controlling everything? This conversation, I'm really excited about this conversation because, well, I think it's one of the most important things that you can grasp about the universe, about the way that our world works. And my hope is that you will walk away from this conversation with a better handle on life. And for those of you that are part of the UFBL, this is going to be a deep dive into what we call our fifth principle, or I really should say those of you in Unity and in the Universal Foundation for Better Living. This is going to be a deep dive into our fifth principle, which is the law of demonstration. Everything that we teach in the UFBL and Unity, and it applies generally to religious science and divine science, it is based on a few things. One is universal. Hold on, guys. I want to get these comments right. It is the omnipresence of God, that God is the only power, the only presence there is. It is the divinity of humankind, which we spent a lot of time talking about in the previous series with Eric Butterworth, Discover the Power Within You. The value and the power of thought, that thoughts are things and they create your world. And we're going to talk about that in this series, practicing the presence of God, that this is a practical faith. This is not just a say it with your mouth faith, but you've actually got to do something. And then the fifth principle, which is the law of demonstration. And the law of demonstration says like begets like, that what you put in impacts or determines your result. And I think it was Malcolm X that says, if you want to understand the flower, study the seed. So what we're going to be doing over these next few weeks are studying the seeds that create the results that we want in life. So this is going to be a power discussion. I am more than excited to dive into this. Thank you everyone who voted for this text, because it wasn't a book that I actually knew about. So I'm excited to meet this text for the first time and to share it with you. The name of the book is called Your Life. The full title is Your Life, Why Your Life is the Way It Is and What You Can Do About It. And the chapter that we're working with tonight is How Universal Law Impacts Your Life. How Universal Law Impacts Your Life. So I want to just take a pulse, 60 seconds. I want to get a bead on where you guys are and what matters to you. And I want to ask if you can take 60 seconds and think about, I'm going to ask you to share it in the comments. Take 60 seconds and think about what it is that comes to mind when you hear the words universal law. So I'm starting the timer. What do you think, or what comes to mind when you hear the words universal law? And I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind putting that in the comments. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the words universal law? I got a few more seconds. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the words universal law? Got 10 more seconds. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the words universal law? And that's our time. Ray says, that which governs us. Constance says, what comes to mind for me is spirit, cause, source. I like that. Hey, Andrea. Good to see you. I'm assuming everybody is in this. All right. Anything else? What comes to mind when you hear the words universal law? Wonderful. All right. So this is where we're going to be. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I guess I can't write while I'm on my phone, but what I thought of was the universe says God, and so God's laws.
Got it. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Got it. Got it. Got it. So our outline tonight, and this is really what we're going to be diving into, is about universal law. And I've got a couple of announcements. We're going to go to opening prayer. We're going to talk about why universal law matters for you. And this is something I'm going to revisit every week during this series, why universal law matters for you. We're going to try to come at it at a different angle with every chapter. We're going to talk tonight about the resistance to universal law, and then how universal law impacts your life, and then Q&A. And of course, if you have questions, if you're in the film strip, feel free to unmute yourself. And if you're in the chat room, then just leave a comment and I'll pick up that comment. So I appreciate questions throughout. Know your why. So my why and why I do this is that I really am committed to waking up as many people as possible to their innate divinity and inspiring them to live from it. That is the reason that I do the Bible Hangout, but it's also the reason that I really do anything else that I do in life. I believe in this teaching. I believe this teaching so much, not just believe in it, but I believe in what it has done in my life and the rewards that I have gotten, and they have been numerous. And so it's important to me to share that with the world. It's important to me to put this out there because I think that it's the avenue for true life transformation. That if you are sick and tired of life being the way that it is, then there is a way to change it. And that way to change it is through universal law and through understanding these principles of being. And so I am committed to sharing that and taking that out to the world. And I tell you, it helps you know what to say no to. And when you know why you do something. And as projects and things come to you, as you begin to transform your life, more good comes into your world. But everything that's good is not for you. Everything that's good is not for your path. And you've got to know what to say no to. You've got to know what to turn down. And so it's important then that you have some kind of guidepost. And when you know your why, it helps you be able to decide between what is good and what is best. You know, sometimes when we're making choices, things are very obvious. This is good and this is bad, and I don't want bad, so no to the bad. But very often, and especially when you begin to get into, you begin to transform yourself, you're really deciding between good and good. And sometimes the variations are so slight that it's like, well, how do you know which one is the one that's the right one for you? And when you know your why, you have the ability to say with clarity, this is a really good opportunity, but this is not the opportunity for me. And I'm just looking at the comments. I actually had to refresh my watch page. So I actually got to see Joe, Reverend Barbara. I got it. Okay. Reverend Barbara says the central foundation, unchangeable rules. This was in response to the question, what do you think about when you hear the word universal law? But yes, I can see you guys now. So I will keep refreshing the page in case there are other comments. And Alita says, what makes us one with God? This is in relation to what do you think about when you hear, or what thoughts occur to you when you hear the words universal law? I want to thank you in advance for your support. The Bible Hangout is free, but it does cost to make it happen. And so the gift that you make, whatever you decide to give, makes a difference. You can make a gift at revsherri.com. And this teaching, I'm interested in taking it around the world. I'm interested in taking it across the planet and reaching as many people as possible. And that means then that we've got to market it. That means we've got to improve it and step it up. And so that means that there has to be someone who says, you know what, this is worth having in the world. And so your gift to the Bible Hangout says that, and I thank you in advance for that. The donation is made via PayPal, and you can go right to revsherri.com and make the gift, and I thank you. So this series, every series has kind of a different little format. This series, the way that it works is that we have the blog, we have the Bible Hangout, and we have something new, the Universal Law Library. And I am so excited about the Universal Law Library because the Universal Law Library is a free resource. It's just for you if you are one of my subscribers, and you can get on the list and be a part of the Universal Law Library. What really excites me about it is that the goal is to turn it into the largest online resource for material related to universal law. And it's user built. So of course there are things that I'm going to add into it as I find things. I started it with a video lesson from Bob Proctor teaching on the 11 forgotten laws. But if you have a resource, please share it. Just want to shout out Constance. She sent me a resource that's going to make it into the queue. So you can send me a quick email if there's a resource that you have, and I will include it. If it makes sense for the law library, I will include it in there. But I want to make sure, like right now, if you wanted to study universal law, you essentially have to basically fish around the internet. You've got to go to YouTube. You got to go over here to truthunity.net. You got to kind of go all over the place to get like some resources, right? I want to try to just kind of put everything in one spot. So like, all the YouTube videos, you'll be able to go there and say, oh, okay, here is this 5 or 30 videos or whatever on universal law, and here are the PDFs, or here's the writings of this person, and so excited. So every Tuesday I'm introducing a new goodie, and it'll be put in the Universal Law Library. And if you are interested in being just joining in, it's free. You can join in at revsherri.com, and you just put your name in your email address in there, and I will send that to you. So very excited. Kanisha says, I'm excited too. It's so cool. I'm so interested to see like what comes of this. So anyway, thank you, God, for the idea, and thank you everybody for contributing to it. And let's create something amazing that we can give as a gift to the world. Panorama of Truth is coming, and I am excited. We're going to Montego Bay, Jamaica. The theme is transforming pieces into peace. One of the speakers that will be there this year is the Reverend Ed Bacon, who is the is it Episcopal? Is it a priest? Well, the All Saints Pasadena. He is the head minister there at All Saints Pasadena. So very excited to hear him speak and get an opportunity to meet him. And I encourage you, if you are able to get there, to join us in Jamaica. It's going to be amazing. The scripture for this series is Matthew 5:17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law. Which Matthew? Uh-oh. Siri has heard me talking, y'all. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. Matthew 5:17. That's funny. No, Siri, I didn't need your help with that. Let's take a moment to pray. I did not expect that. That's hilarious. Thank you, God, for humor. Thank you for unexpected happenings. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I bless tonight. I bless this conversation. And I just ask God for your guidance, help, direction with sharing this information, that we want to endeavor to be more in alignment with you and to work according to your law and to move in cooperation with the way that the universe works. And we can't do that alone. We have to reach out to you for help to do that. And so this class is coming together as our reaching out to you for that help. Meet us at our point of limitation, carry us over that finish line so that we can lead transformed lives and then turn around and reach back and help other people. We open our hearts and our minds to you. We give thanks and praise for you. Let everything that we do in this time together be done for your glory. In the name and the nature of the one who taught us universal law. And so it is. And amen. So why universal law matters for you? Universal law matters for you because everything in your life, your home, your family, your body, your job, your relationships, everything has unfolded according to your application of universal law. And I should have italicized your. Everything in your life, your home, your family, your body, your job, your relationship, everything. There's nothing, the way you look, the way you feel right now, the way things are positioned in your home, everything has unfolded according to your application of universal law. And so you need to know, you need to understand it. That's why it's so important to you. Phyllis says we should know the why beneath the why. If we dig deeper, we will discover the why beneath the why. Yeah, that's it. That's why it matters. That you need to understand universal law because you're already using it. It's not like you're going to get to a space in consciousness or it's not like the flip of a switch. It's not like you come into this teaching and then you begin to use universal law. It's not like it turns on when you're 18. Even a baby, even an infant, unknowingly or perhaps knowingly, depending on the old soul, but is making use of universal law. It's happening. It's already how your world is being created. And one of the challenges with our world is that we are taught to trace experience to a physical cause. And so we're always looking to say, well, this is the reason why. And we're usually pointing to some type of physical cause. But there is an invisible cause. All beginnings are secret. All beginnings are hidden. The seed, before it becomes the flower, is beneath the soil, and its inner workings are hidden from anyone observing it. And at best, what you can learn how to do is to cooperate with the planting of the seed. But even a professional rose grower is unaware of all of the different things that happen that cause the seed to break and create ultimately the rose. So the understanding that we will get is not so much that we will be able to say, okay, this is how it all works. We will say, this is how we cooperate. This is how we cooperate with universal law. And when we do that, we move beyond just leading lives of unpredictability or leading lives of feast and famine. I have a good friend who was an actor at one time, and he would always say about Hollywood, it's feast or famine. It's feast or famine. And that was his experience. He was working universal law, turning his own life into the feast or famine that he kept saying that it was. And for him, he was saying it and his life was giving him the evidence of it. And so it's reconfirming the thing that he was saying. And the thing is that you could also say life is feast or feast. and move from one elevated position to another elevated position. This universal law matters because you're always working it, even when you don't know you're working it. Everything has unfolded according to it. And so it is important that we take the time to really to study it, to get a grasp on it. A lot of people resist universal law. A lot of people resist universal law because we just don't like this idea that there's some kind of restriction on us. On, I think this is page 3, but remember, I'm working with the Kindle. He writes, you may have a negative reaction to the thought that you are subject to universal laws. Most of us prefer to be completely free of any sort of restriction. There is no need for concern. These laws are not restrictive. They are truly laws created out of love, which will produce every good in your life if you choose to work with them in the right way. Not only are there laws governing everything at all levels, spiritual, mental, and physical, but they are guided, guarded, watched over, and kept in accord with divine love. So we often resist it because we don't like the idea that something is governing our lives. We chafe at that idea that we want to, we love the idea of the person who sets their own rules. But even the person who sets their own rules still has to operate their rules inside of the rules of God, the laws of God. And so universal law is this hidden element that controls your life. And the sooner that we accept this incontrovertible fact, the easier life shall become for us. And I don't want to say that any differently. That may seem very black and white or very simple. I can't think of the word. Made simple. God, I was about to say simplerize, and that's not a word at all. But oh, good grief. I don't know where my vocabulary went today. Anyway, that the sooner that we simplify, oh, mercy, the sooner that we accept that, we simplify our lives. The sooner that we accept that universal law is the hidden element that is controlling everything, that everything is pressing into expression because of that, then the easier life becomes. Things get simpler because now you know why things look the way that they look. And it's like, oh, well, I may not know how to work universal law, but I get why stuff looks the way that it looks. I'm no longer confused about that. So I want to take another pulse on this. And this is really a shout out. And what I want is to post in the comments how you want your relationship with universal law to change. I want to set an intention because intention is so important. The energy of the universe doesn't move until there is some intention. And so if you wouldn't mind posting in the comments how you want your relationship with universal law to change. Just sitting today, we're at the very beginning of this series. How do you want your relationship with universal law to change? What do you want it, or how do you want it to improve? Thank you, Joe. Joe says simplistic. I don't know where my vocabulary went. It disappeared for like a hot second. So how do you want your life, how your relationship with universal law to change? And if you're in the film strip, feel free to unmute yourself and comment. How do you want your relationship with universal law to change?
Can you hear me, Rev?
Yep, I sure can.
I want to be just closer with the one. I think of that I think of that scripture about just wanting to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all else will be added to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be in that kingdom with God, one with the one, so
Yeah.
that as long as I seek him first, everything else is added to me. I don't have to worry about anything else if I am one, with the spirit.
Yes.
So that's my goal.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Constance, were you going to say something? I have you unmuted.
Um, Not really.
No.
I lost my connection from one device, so I had to go on the phone. So maybe that's
Right.
why you thought I wanted to say something, but
Yes.
no, not
Uh,
yet.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Kanisha says, I want to be deliberate and clear in my use of universal law. Joe says, not hit and miss, but to flow. Yes, girl. Yes. 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 No more hit and miss. Quintina says, I want to be more intentional and deliberate. Okay. Good. 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 Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this is what I want. These are the takeaways that I have. Now, I should say this before we jump into this. These chapters are so meaty. I was
Yes.
going through the text and I'm like, oh my God, like every lesson could really be two lessons. So I got to think about how to like parse out this information because it's really rich. And it's like, how do you decide what part not to share? Because it's all great. But so these are the takeaways, but there are many other takeaways. And if you see something that I don't say, it doesn't mean that I didn't see it. It means I probably had to decide not to concentrate on that and put my attention on this. But if it matters to you, please bring it up because there's likely somebody else who needs to hear that. So I'm going to depend on you guys to help me really kind of co-teach, co-share this information. It's that much, it's that rich that, like I was going through the chapters and I'm like, boy, you can tell this is written back in the day because today chapters are very short. And this is like, one chapter feels like one volume. So definitely want to get your help with, kind of co-teaching this information. All right, but let's dive into to the points that I want to share with you. So the first, and I have to do this because I'm a Bible teacher and I am a Christian, and my way shower is Jesus the Christ. And this again, taking nothing away from what Bruce McArthur does, and you can see in the text that he acknowledges the Bible as well as other sacred texts. What he is working from are the readings of I believe this guy was a psychic, or at least that's how many people think of him, Edgar Cayce. And Edgar Cayce would do all of these readings back in the day. And I don't know a whole lot about him. I'm actually just learning who he is. Bruce's work was to go through the thousands of readings that Edgar Cayce did for people and to pull out his teaching on universal law. What I want to do for you is marry it with what's in the Bible, because I want you to get that a teaching on universal law is a biblical teaching. I do not want you to think that you have come to the Bible Hangout and I have tossed the Bible out the window. This is a biblical teaching. We'll be using Your Life by Bruce McArthur as the backdrop. And what I will be doing from week to week is bringing in the scripture to support what I am sharing with you from this book. So the first thing that I want you to get and to know with clarity, that we talked about this with Eric Butterworth about Jesus, that he taught the divinity of humankind. But equal to teaching you the divinity of humankind, Jesus teaches the universal law. If you sit down with the Sermon on the Mount, if you sit down with the Sermon by the Sea, or just about any one of the parables that Jesus has taught, what you will discern is a teaching about universal law. And so this is just one verse that I pulled out, Matthew 5:17, but you can almost put anything Jesus says up against universal law, and it stands the sniff test. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill. Now, this is an important point because there are teachings that are out there that will tell you that Jesus got rid of the law. And they will tell you that with Jesus came grace. That's a Pauline perspective on Jesus. We could argue that all day long, but Paul is the one that says this idea of Jesus brought grace, and therefore we're not subject to the law. And I want to be clear, what he is saying you are not subject to are the human-made laws. But universal law didn't go anywhere. The law that grace eliminates is you following man's law, meaning that governs your life. That if you come up against a law that man has created, that humankind has created, and it is unjust, right? You have come into a time where that law is unjust, that you are not subject to that law. But the universal law, you are always subject to. Everything in this universe is subject to it. What Jesus taught and proved with his life is that universal law is unbreakable and unchangeable. It operates forever and for all time. And what he taught us was how to fulfill or cooperate with that which always was, always is, and always shall be. What always was, what always is, and what always shall be. I'm going to do some muting. Are you going to say something, Andrea? No. Okay. So, oh, thank you, Ray. Ray says that Edgar Casey is considered one of the early 20th century mystics. Thank you. Thank you. He also had great psychic abilities. Yes. So I want to be clear about this, that Jesus taught spiritual law or universal law or divine law. You'll often hear me say divine law. It's one of my favorite phrases. Phyllis, I missed your comment, Phyllis. Phyllis says, I want to always honor it at all times because I want to manifest the best in my life. Yes, yes, yes. So the thing to grasp, if you will, with universal law is that this is a Jesus teaching. I used Matthew 5:17, but I could easily go to also in the 5th chapter of Matthew, ask and it is given, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall open. If you won't forgive your neighbor's trespasses, neither will the Father forgive you. That Jesus is always teaching universal law. That when you look at what he is showing you, when you look at the parables, that there is a law that is being communicated. He's saying this is how the universe works. This idea that he eliminated the law is a theological position, not a biblical position. That means that somebody read the text and that's what they saw. Apparently they saw it enough and convinced enough people that this has just been passed down through history and nobody has questioned it. But grace does not eliminate universal law. What grace does, it says that even inside of universal law, that the universe is always seeking to try to bring you the highest version of whatever it is that you're creating. Even when you're creating chaos, universe is finding a way to give you some good because God loves you that much, that you never pay the full price of whatever error, ERROR, whatever error thought you sow. And whenever you sow a good thought, you always reap more than you have ever sown. So the grace is there as a multiplier of whatever good exists in whatever situation, but it does not absolve you of bearing the consequences to some degree of what it is that you are sowing. Do not fear universal law. And again, this goes back to Jesus. I didn't go back and say how many times did he say this, but he continually encourages us to fear not. This is a repeated teaching of Jesus. Fear not, fear not. Do not fear, little flock. Fear not. It's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. For a lot of people, the word law carries a punitive connotation. And when you think about it, there are many human-made laws that are just unjust. There are places in this world right now where a woman who has been raped is considered guilty and she may be liable to death. At one point in history, educating enslaved Africans was a punishable offense. You could die trying to teach an enslaved person how to read. So there are many places in our world where laws are simply unjust. They're not fair. They're not based on any principle. They're based on the prejudices of humankind. And so when the mind hears the word law in relation to God, we seem to only be able to pull up associations that link us with the way that we think of the word in its human form. But universal law, the law established by our loving Father, Mother God, does not need to be feared. Bruce writes, the essence and purpose of all universal laws and the reason for their existence is to manifest the infinite love of the universe to you and to me. And Jesus, he knew people had grown accustomed to the unjust ways that some humans treat other humans. And so he was always continually assuring us that no, this universe is a good universe. You don't have to worry. God has your back. God is good. Joe says the whole grace versus law thing makes more sense to me now. Awesome. Awesome. You don't have to fear universal law. You don't have to run. They would say, be careful what you wish for, or, you reap what you sow. Like when people teach universal law, they teach it like they're teaching a human made law. Right. And there's this dun, 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 it's going to get you. Right. Reverend Della used to say, now listen, if God wanted to get you, what could you do? I mean, really, if God wanted to get you, what could you do? It's like you be gone like that, like just gone, right? So you don't have to fear the universe. And one of the things that's key, and this is why I love the 13th chapter of Matthew, where Jesus talks about gives his sermon by the sea, and he gives these 8 parables that explain the universe, how the universe works. That what you walk away with when you really get into those parables and really dig into those parables is that this universe is good. And this universe is friendly. This universe is kind. And this is why that grace is so important, that even when you sow the worst thought, even when you are in your worst emotional day, thinking your worst irrational thoughts, that you still never reap the fullness of all of that irrationality. That you sitting and imagining a plane crash and going through all the experiences of thinking about the plane crash does not always add up to you being in a plane crash. Like you never read that the universe is continually conspiring to keep you alive. That it's always snaking around whatever corner, whatever door you've closed in your house, that even if you went in a house, okay, go with me with this metaphor. Even if you went in a house and you closed every shutter and you closed every door, and so you're sitting there in the dark and you have sealed yourself off, the grace would still find a way to get the air and the oxygen you need to come in the room to meet you at your point of limitation. That even when you have shut yourself off, that the universe is seeking a way to bring you the level of good that you can accept. Even if you try to stop breathing, you would pass out before you died, because the grace is always there seeking to lift you up beyond your concept of yourself. And whenever you get it right and you sow a good thought, and I promise you, I'm a witness to this, when you sow a good thought, a love thought, the universe will bring you more than you ask for. There is this care that the universe brings, and so you don't have to fear. There's no the fear, fear has no basis in reality. And so you can decide today, this moment, to let it go and to trust that the universe is good and God has my back, and it's fine. That even with all the craziness happening in our world, I don't even have to get worried about that, because it's good. Whatever is the outcome of this moment right now, no matter how crazy it looks, there will be some good somewhere that I will be able to put my hands on and take advantage of. Always. There's always sweetness somewhere. Universal law rules everything in the universe. Now, this may be a position that you have difficulty accepting. And I put the full quote. I hope it's not too much text on the slide, but he writes this right on page 1. And I thought it was just powerful. He says, "You're probably asking yourself, how can this be? My life is chaotic, unpredictable, filled with uncertainties, problems, and difficulties. When I watch the nightly news, I see a parade of the world's failures and problems. I see no good answers and few satisfactory solutions. How can we claim that the laws of the universe are just and beneficial for everyone?" And you may feel like that, especially when you see someone who you're not a fan of receiving what you think is a reward for their negative behavior. That they seem to somehow be like Teflon. They're violating every law. They're lying. They're interfering with someone potentially exposing them, and you want to know how in the world it is that they are able to get away with that. It seems like in that situation, universal law is not at work. That somehow that God must have missed this one right here. This person seems to be getting away with everything. And when you feel like that, because that's a very realistic possibility, that you have to back up and say, wait a minute. If God never changes, and that's my premise, and even a fundamentalist is going to agree with that God does not change, then it follows that however God does anything, God does everything, because God never changes. It was James who said, "No one, when tempted, should say, I'm being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself tempts no one." Again, a changeless God. If God is ever being tempted by evil, then God is always being tempted by evil, because God cannot change. And if God is ever tempting you, then God is always tempting you, because God cannot change. It would mean that he would have to be busy tempting you, not blessing you. Every generous act, he continues, of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. And so you have to begin to think about what you think. You have to begin to think about what you think, and to realize that it would not have been logical or consistent for God to provide precise laws for the physical world and then just leave the functioning of the mental spiritual world that governs us to chance. I mean, our cars, our telephones, our television sets, our airplanes, our satellites, anything else we can think of, these smartphones, they all operate in accord with the universal laws that apply to each of them. The law of electricity. The reason you have electricity in your house is because we have learned to cooperate with the laws of electricity, which then bring it across the wires into your house. The reason that we can fly a plane in the air and not have it drop out of the sky is because we cooperate with the law of aerodynamics. The reason that we can do any of the things that we do is because the law in that physical arena has been discerned and we are able to take advantage of that law. Now, a God that does not change would have to change to create precise physical laws that you can depend on forever and for all time, but somehow stop when it gets to the portion of the universe that we're in, that we inhabit, and say, yeah, no, you know what, I'm good. Let them figure that out on their own. It does. Then you can't say God is unchanging. You wouldn't be able to say that. You wouldn't be able to say that God is absolute, all there is. So this idea that God can just do whatever God wants to do, it's like you gotta start to question that, because there are people who believe that. They will tell you, well, God can do whatever God wants to do. And you have to be able to think out these theological positions, not just accept it and shut down because you can't pass it back. It's like, no, what you're saying doesn't make sense. That either God is unchanging or God is not unchanging. Now, if you have a changing God, well, that's possible. There are many concepts in the Bible that speak to a changing God. And they'll say, but what about the wrath of God? And it's like, okay, you got to bring some reason to this. If God is ever expressing wrath, that means that God is always expressing wrath. And so some of these things that we're reading about in our scriptures are human points of view on God, but not God himself. Constance says, because I understand the universal laws, I relax and know that we do not have to worry or seek revenge, because sooner or later, like they say in the movie The Mummy, they will get their comeuppance. Yes, sooner or later, it's coming. Phyllis says, we cannot escape his love. Yes. Quintina says, that occurs from our belief of being separate from source. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So it's you got to start to think about what you think about. Think about what you think about, and does it make sense? And the thing is that the reason that we can plant a seed and get a flower is that the process by which a seed becomes a flower never changes. It's always the same. God is consistent. God is faithful. Even with us tearing up the atmosphere with carbon emissions and all the things that we're doing, you can still put a seed in the ground and have it become a flower. The same seed. It's not like yesterday you had to use pumpkin seeds to get tomatoes, and today you've got to use turnip seeds to get roses. The same turnip seeds that they write about in the Bible that produce turnips then are the same turnip seeds that we have today that produce turnips today. That God is that faithful that it has been consistent forever and for all time. And so this God that never changes, then it follows that God would also have a universal law that applies to us. And then it becomes a matter of us discerning that law, understanding it. And this is the thing, you got to get that. For some people, many of you are in a New Thought teaching, so this is not your first time hearing universal law. This is not a new thing, but there may be somebody who this is the first time they're hearing it. And I want to help you that, because you might be skeptical, right? But ignorance of universal law does not mean absence of universal law. Ignorance of universal law does not mean absence of universal law. The law of aerodynamics, the law that allows us to fly through the air on an airplane, was here even before we could fly through an airplane. Even before someone had the consciousness to say, well, if you bend the metal like this and you put the wings like that, and you, right, even before they figured out how to work the law of aerodynamics, the law of aerodynamics was available to be worked. And it was only through the proper application of the law that we were able to do what we now are able to do. So flying planes, traveling into outer space, studying the cosmos, it all comes from the application of universal law. The potential always exceeds the reality. The potential always exceeds the reality. It's something Reverend Mary taught me. The potential always exceeds the reality. So the potential for application exists before the reality of application happens. And the potential, so the things that we're able to do with the law of aerodynamics are because of our level of understanding today. But that does not mean that there are more things that can be done with the law of aerodynamics that we're not yet able to take advantage of. The potential always exceeds the reality. So the universal laws that support our existence have always been. The universal laws that support our existence have always been. So our ignorance of these laws does not mean that they're not there, but we're waking up to them. And now that we're waking up to them, we can consciously create lives that operate in harmony, peace, joy, love, and abundance. There's a transformation that has to happen. There's a transformation that has to happen. The caterpillar cannot take advantage of higher laws, the laws of aerodynamics, until it transforms into the butterfly. You may be sitting at a level of consciousness where the things that Jesus did look impossible. But that's like the caterpillar looking at the butterfly and saying, you'll never get me up in one of those things. Because we know the process, we know that the caterpillar going through the process that it goes through, if it continues to do the things that it is meant to do, follows its path, it will become a butterfly. Provided that it stays alive, eats the proper food, does what it's supposed to do, it's going to make it into the butterfly. We're going to make it to Christ consciousness. It's inevitable. Now, whether we get there in this lifetime or the next one, but it's going to happen. But the things that you can do at Christ consciousness look fantastic at this level of consciousness. At this level of consciousness, it looks like I'm subject to the things that it looks like I'm subject to. But once I begin to transform, there are higher laws that I am able to take advantage of. And so I simply must continue putting one foot in front of the other, doing the spiritual work, and the transformation process will happen. And so it's, if nothing else, you can take it for why we're sitting in the space that we're in today, because the transformation process happened. It drew us together to be able to have this kind of conversation and it not be over your head. You know, and I know that there was a time when you would hear this conversation, when I would hear this conversation, and it would either not interest me or just be over my head, or it wouldn't pull me. But there was a transformation that happened such that now that I have an appetite for this. There was a time when I had to remind myself to pray. That's not my story anymore. A transformation has happened. I don't get out of a day without praying. It's a non-negotiable element of the day, right? And so it's the same thing with any level of transformation that you know, there was a time when you had to be reminded to brush your teeth, but now you understand the law of cleanliness and the law of dental hygiene, right? And you know, brush those teeth every day. There's a transformation that's happening. And as you transform, you gain access to higher and higher levels of law. When I was growing up, and there are probably people who still have this, I just don't see them because my world has changed. There were these necklaces. We had this, so near my house, there was a flea market, right past the freeway. And you could go there to buy gold really cheap. You go get that herringbone chain. And there was this pendant that I would see on a lot of necklaces that women wore, and it would say, "Try God." And the idea is that life would simply be better if you would just try God. And so I want to update that concept, and I want to challenge you to try universal law. Try universal law. He writes something in the chapter that I thought was powerful, when he talks about how your life changes. I'm pulling my notes. How your life changes when you learn to work universal law. And one of the things that he says is that You meet and resolve the problems of life and any traumatic conditions. You meet and resolve the problems of life and any traumatic conditions. And that's powerful, because when you think about, many ways that people view life is that they run from the problems of life. But when you start to understand universal law and how it applies to mind and spirit, you learn how to meet and resolve problems. And then as you start to know these universal laws as principles of mind, and you start to apply them, you actually start to create more peace and joy and understanding in your life. Imagine that. I mean, that's powerful. I certainly could use more joy. You also realize that they're vital to your life. It becomes important to you. You develop this, commitment to them, because you really see how they can make or break your relationships, your careers, your finances, your life. You see how a lack of understanding could totally mess you up. And then, as you become more aware of the universal laws and use them effectively, you transform yourself and your life. You create joy in your relationships, success in your career, and abundance in many forms in your experience. And then finally, you really start to become who you were meant to be. You have a fifth symphony in you. You have a fifth symphony in you. You have you're part of the puzzle that you're meant to contribute to the well-being of humankind, to the forward movement of the universe. And when you discern that, or when you go through this transformation process, you really begin to step into that. I'll give it to you in physical terms. So Roger, is it Bannister? Yeah, think of Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. Before he broke the 4-minute mile, people thought the 4-minute mile, that no one could run a mile faster than 4 minutes. But today, if you're not running fast, I don't know what the new time is, but if you're not running, if you can't do a mile in less than 4 minutes, you can't compete internationally, period. Because that barrier has been broken for all of humankind. The technology that enables the iPhone or all of these touchscreen phones, that technology is now available for anybody to use it. And so now someone coming along who may not even know the full history of how it was created or the painstaking way that it came about, but they have the ability to take advantage of it and create all kinds of new gadgets. It used to be that if you wanted to code a website, you had to know HTML. Who can read HTML? I still can't put together a proper HTML code. But let me tell you what I understand. I understand enough of like how to pick up a HTML script and lift it and plant it inside of a website thing interface and have it pop out and create something on screen. Because it's been created, that there are things that you're able to take advantage of, and there's a part that you're able to contribute. And so now whoever figured that out, they have made it so that someone who can't even code can build a website. And when you think about it, that happened really, really fast in our lifetime, because things are happening at a faster and faster pace for us in terms of our growth and our expansion. So there is something, and multiple things, not just one thing, but there is something that you are meant to contribute to the forward movement. You have a puzzle piece to contribute to God's kingdom, to the realization of that. And as you begin to work with these universal laws, you begin to deliver on your part of the kingdom. Phyllis says we need to be deprogrammed from that belief that we are separated from him who is our source. Yes. And she said, okay, Farmer Rev. Andrea says, amen, Rev. Amen. A transformation has occurred and I will never go back. No. Quintina says the potential was always there. Phyllis says we need to change our old bad habits to see transformation. Yes, and I'm glad you said that, Phyllis, because I heard this week. I was listening to T. Harv Eker, which is great. Just pull up anything on him on YouTube. And he said something that I thought was key, which is that you change one habit at a time. And I certainly have been that person. I try to change every habit that, and I'm wearing myself out trying to change every habit. Pick one. Pick one. If you change that one, it'll change your life. And then it'll make it easier to change the others. I used to try to have this elaborate morning routine. I was going to get up and exercise. I had read Miracle Mornings from Hal Elrod. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to have the exercise. I'm going to meditation. I'm going to read. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to visualize. I'm going to journal. And I end up staying up till midnight because I got this overly complicated morning routine. And it's like, you know what? Let's dial this back. Let's just make sure we meditate every morning. Let's just get that. Can we get that? It's like, let's start there. And then naturally, as I could move that peg and make sure that the meditation happened every morning, then I could get to, okay, let me add a little bit of journaling. And then let me add a little bit of visualization. And now I've got this, but you baby step your way into it. Baby, if you try to change everything at one time, it's too big of a change. So you just baby step your way into it and the change lasts. It's a lasting shift. Constance says, I remember a lesson from Reverend Mary. She said, not everything in your consciousness is ready for truth. Work in that area that is. Yes. 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 I heard her say that. Not everything in your consciousness is ready for the truth. So you just do the part that's ready to be changed, because you go start to meddle and you start bringing down like a house of cards, and don't nothing work out because you're doing too much. You team too much. Okay. You cannot break universal law. So here's the thing. It's hard, because we have the same word, and maybe this is English that is maybe part of the problem, but you cannot break universal law. You can break human laws, but there's no such concept for universal law. And so again, it's moving away from this idea of thinking of God's law in human terms. A universal law applies throughout the world and the universe. So it applies to each one of us, everybody you know and everybody you don't know. It operates without exception and without regard to place, economic condition, color, or creed. Universal law doesn't care whether or not you're a good person. Jesus says it this way: he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. So here's the thing. If you work the laws of prosperity, you will get the prosperity, financial prosperity. It don't mean you will have peace of mind, but you will get the financial prosperity, because making money follows a law. If you do the things that make money and you follow those principles, you will make money, period. That's just how it works. So sometimes we look and we want people to be punished according to the way that we want them to be punished. But if someone is a person that's not of good character, they lie all the time. You just can't trust anything that they're saying. They're duplicitous. They are, they'll take from you if they think they can get over on you. They'll run a con as quick as they'll tell you their name. They will do double talk. I read somewhere, who said this? Maybe it was a Facebook post or something, but a friend was talking about a law firm. She's an attorney, and she was saying that her boss lied so much that she started documenting every conversation, because the person would basically backtrack. Like they were such a pathological liar, right? That person can still work universal law and create wealth for themselves. It's not like you've got to have a great character to create good in a particular area in your life. You can be a jerk and have wealth. It's absolutely possible. It's not like you have to like get good and be a nice person before you create wealth for yourself. And I think that contributes to the myth that wealthy people are bad people, because if you work the law is going to work. And the vast majority of the people who are wealthy are absolutely good people. But what we highlight in the papers, and because we don't want to accept responsibility for our lives, we name wealthy people bad people, financially wealthy people. Constance, I don't know if this is a typo. You said the yo boys follow the law of making money. I don't know if I said, I don't know if I read that right. But drug guys. Yes, I never heard that term before. The yo boys. That's Merlin. That's that Merlin talk. No, but again, the universal law only requires that you work it. It doesn't require that you be a good person. And I think that that's one of the challenges with people. I got it. She said, that's what we call them in Be More. Yes, 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 yes. Andrea, yes, 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 yes. That it doesn't require that you be a good person in order to work. Now, in order for you to reach Christ consciousness, absolutely. This is about character transformation and character development. But if you just want to make some money, you can absolutely apply these laws and make some money. The seed. So Malcolm X said, if you want to understand the flower, study the seed. If you want to understand making money, study the seed that makes money. Most people study money, but you study the seed, and the seed of making money is helping people. The seed of making money is helping people. If you study the seed and you get good at the seed, the result will follow, period. And you earn according to the number of people that you actually help. Help more people, and help people in a way that takes you out of the equation, meaning that you don't have to physically be there, and there are no limits on your wealth. There's no limit. You don't need the best person to be in the White House or the worst person to be there. You don't need them to put the laws in your favor or out of your favor, because if you study the seed will create the result. And so you put your attention on, how do I help people? What is it that I have, that I do, that I do better than anybody else does, and that people come to me for, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to master that in terms of helping people. The results follow. Because here's the thing. When you think about like squirrels get nuts from trees, right? Cows get grass from the ground. Money, which is our currency, can only come from other people. And when you think about why you give money to people, you give money to people who help you. You give money to the grocery store because it helps you put food in your pantry. You give money to the massage parlor because it gives you the restoration and rejuvenation from that relaxation. But listen, let you go to a massage parlor and you get a bad experience. They're not helping you, and you're not going back. So you study the seed. The seed of making money is helping people. Master the seed, the results will follow. Period. It's just clear. It causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, on the righteous and the unrighteous. Work the seed, the results will take care of themselves. Phyllis says, change exercise to movement and you will get more exercise done. Yes, 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 amen. Maybe that's what I should call it, movement. That'll help me. So universal law offers you a path for personal transformation. And it was so funny because when I first read this, I was like, how is that? I'd never thought of it that way, or it had never been taught to me that way. And in writing the blog post and in preparing the lesson, Spirit revealed to me, and I was like, oh, that's right. So one of the things that he does is he talks about these 4 levels of transformation, and he puts this pyramid, and I just didn't have time to recreate it for the PowerPoint, but he puts this pyramid in there, and there are these 4 levels of development. And the first level of development is mastering the laws of cause and effect. The first law of development is mastering the laws of cause and effect. You're just getting good mastering the mundane aspects of life. It's realizing that if I think a thought, that it's going to create something. And so if something is created, then I need to go back to the thought. I need to go back and examine my thinking. That's that level one. And the thing about level one is that many people spend their entire lives at level one, where it takes them a lifetime, and maybe they even transition out of this lifetime before they figure out that their thoughts create their expression. And so you get a lot of people who come into a teaching like this, and they don't get to it until their 60s and 70s and 80s, because they're busy fishing around on level one with trying to master the laws of cause and effect, and trying to trace effect to a physical cause, right? Remember what I said, that you want to understand the flower, study the seed. And most people are studying the flower. So they are trying to trace physical ailments to some physical cause. They're saying, well, this causes cancer. No, the hate you keep in your heart causes cancer. And if you keep it long enough, that hate will calcify and block up every artery you got and change every cell in your body. So, and same thing with diabetes, and and they keep trying to trace these things to physical things. But every cause is invisible and every cause is spiritual. And so many people stay at level one because they keep trying to identify effect with a physical cause. And so they never get to transformation because they're trying to play around with the effect. But once you get it, that life is created by what you cannot see, and not just what you cannot see with the eye, what you cannot see with the microscope. It's not just like, oh, well, I could get it if I had a high-powered eye. No, the cause is invisible. And so you go to the invisible cause, which is thought. And so when you have an effect, you start to say, well, what's the thought that I'm working with? What's the thought that brought this about? Because if you're here, then that thought is in me in some way. And I'm going to take my feelings out of it. I'm going to not get caught all up in my feelings. And I'm going to understand what it is that I'm doing that creates this. I just looked at the time, y'all. I am so sorry. I am way over. Oh my God. All right, let me keep going. So finish this and then we're out of here. Level two is their higher universal laws for your transformation. So once you get that my thinking causes my experience, then you become available to higher universal laws for transformation. And there's some miraculous things, or feel like miraculous things, that you're able to do, that you're able to begin to understand your relationship to and the nature of your creator. Your purpose on earth and ways to achieve your purpose start to become clearer. You become a master of the law of manifestation and how you continually build your life with it. You start to get in tune with the universe. You're able to tap into the Christ consciousness and get guidance for any condition that you're facing. You start to see your true relation to other people, that your life begins to get more balanced, right? And then you get better at applying the laws. This is that second level. That third level is where you start to transform your relationship with other people. So you work on you and you get you right. And at that third level, you get you right with everybody else. We get you right. You get you right at level two. Level three, you get right with everybody else. And so you start to release hurts. You forgive mama. You forgive daddy. You forgive the things that have been difficult for you to forgive, and you start to express mercy, but you begin to develop a deeper level of compassion. Phyllis says, meaning instead of saying you are going to exercise, you will never commit to that. But when you said I'm going to get moving, which includes dancing, biking, etc., you will start enjoying that instead. Oh, yes. No, I knew exactly what you meant, Phyllis. I knew exactly what you meant. So level one is just figure out that you're the creator of your experience. Level two, you fix you. Level three, you fix your relationship to other people. And then level four is that Christ consciousness. And so again, going back to the butterfly and the caterpillar, that as you master the level of consciousness on which you are on, you transform, and laws that were already there are now available to you. The laws are already there. You can't do anything with them because of the level of consciousness where you now sit. but keep doing the daily work to change, to apply thought properly, and you will change, and you will change everything about you, and you will become that butterfly and begin to take advantage of the equivalent of the laws of aerodynamics. Those things are absolutely available to you. And so I want to take a pulse on where we are, and I want you to kind of think about where you are. What level are you on? Are you level 1, level 2, level 3, or 4 in regards to universal law? I'll give you a couple seconds to kind of think about that. If you looked at your life, where would you say you are? Are you level 1, level 2, 3, or 4 in regards to universal law? Are you at the level where you are really still working with this idea that your thought creates your world? Or have you accepted that I create my world and now I'm working on transforming me? Or are you at that place where you like, you know what, I got myself to a good place. I really need to work on letting go of mama and daddy and all the things that I held on to, that all the ways that I feel like they negatively impacted my life, or whomever, didn't be mom and dad. Or level 4, that Christ consciousness. All right. Ray says level 1. Constance says, I'd say 2 and 3, because just when I think I've got 3, I've got it. 3 shows me I don't. Yes. I have to say amen. Just when I think I got it, I'll be like, nope. Here's somebody else to forgive. Quintina says level 3. Yes. Your friend Barbara too. Andrea, level 3. Yes. Her Barbara says 2.75 to 4. Yes. Phyllis says, I taught my niece how to use the universal law to manifest her first $100. I love that. Joe says level 2, but have done some 3. Yes. And Andrea says vacillating between 2 and 3. Yeah, I would say I'm somewhere between 2 and 3. You know what? No, I'm a level 2. I'm level 2 because I got family members that help me stay at level 2. they do some stuff. Woo! And I'll find myself full on into judgment. Full on. So I'm still working on me. I'm level 2. I'm just tell the truth. So God bless those family members that they keep you in truth, keep you on your knees, as they say. All right, y'all, it's time to do something. How has your view of universal law changed after tonight? And then take some time after this video to think about how you have been applying universal law. In what ways have you used universal law? What kind of thoughts have you given universal law on a regular basis? And then finally, leave a comment on this YouTube video for this lesson. What was your biggest takeaway, and how can you use what you've heard? Yes. How has your view of universal law changed after tonight? And take some time after this video to think about how you have been applying universal law. And then finally, leave a comment on the YouTube video for this lesson. What was your biggest takeaway, and how can you use what you've heard? Alita says, I know, right? What day is it? Girl, I tell you, they wonderful people. Not taking anything from anybody, but they keep you on your knees. Keep you prayed up. Any questions, any takeaways, any what do you hear that you can like do something with today? I think I know for sure for me, hearing the 4 levels and realizing I'm at level 2, it's to really double down on the work on myself, because I think that will help me get to that place where it's easier to release in my case, family members. I feel like I'm super kind with strangers, patient as all get out. But I hold family members to a higher standard. And it's like, I want compassion. I want the grace that I give other people, and I want it from my family members. So that's my takeaway. Joe says, thank you for this lesson. Thank you guys. So next week, I'm gonna figure out how to dice up this next lesson because it's deep. Joe says it reminds me of AA's 12 steps in a way. Yes. Andrea says such an awesome lesson as always, Rev. Thanks. Yay. Thank you guys. So next week, let me give you it's chapter 2, and chapter 2 is like begets. So we're gonna be talking about the law of cause and effect, and it's a pretty meaty chapter. So I don't know how I'm gonna boil this down because it's meaty, and I want to make sure that we have time. It really probably needs to be 2 lessons, so we'll figure that part out because it's that thick. So we'll see. Anyway, chapter 2, like begets. We'll talk about the law of cause and effect. So thank you guys so much. Have an awesome week. Constance says, yeah, 2 lessons. Okay, well, we'll do that. I mean, we'll have to divide it. It's really a lot. Quintina says the topic for study is on time. I have been having difficulty staying on point. Thank you. Get into level 4. Yes, that's where we're going. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great night, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.